Some insight for you now on how the tech giants are handling what is an increasingly hostile view of social media. Australia, of course, has seen millions of kids' accounts shut down as a result of their ban. The UK potentially going down that same route. France has already put legislation into their parliament. One of Meta's most senior executives happens to be in the country for what they call a safety camp. Antigone Davis is the VP and Global Head of Safety at Meta and is with us. Very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Just for context, explain where in the line or chain of things you are to Mark Zuckerberg. How important are you?
Oh, I feel like your description was sort of the best. I work on teen safety at Meta. I've been here for 11 years. I have a team that works with all of the teams across the company to come up with our strategy. So I'm right in the center of it.
Do you know, or could you isolate out in any given day as part of your job, which strand that Meta has? So if you look at Facebook, Insta, WhatsApp, Messenger and Threads, where's the trouble safety-wise in your organisation?
I don't know if I would say there's trouble in any one app more than another, but I do think people are paying close attention to Instagram because so many teens are on it.
Is Instagram a problem?
I don't think of Instagram as a problem. I think most teens see Instagram as a really effective way to build community, to engage in their interests, etc. But I do understand parents, and I do understand their concerns about trying to provide a safe environment. I am a parent. She's 27 now, and I worried about those things. So I do understand why parents are worried about it for sure.
What's the most edgy safety issue going on as far as you're concerned?
The most edgy safety issue.
The thing you worry about most?
I think probably the thing that I worry about most is how do we make it simple for parents? Candidly, for parents, I think it's been very hard for them. It either involves grabbing that phone from teens. And so what I'd like to see, or what we'd like to see, is a way for parents to be able to sort of say yes or no and approve the download of an app.
Okay. You'd have to have parents involved, though. What do you make of Australia and what they've done?
I get it. I understand why they're concerned about it. I think the impetus to go to a ban is that it provides a very neat and simple solution. But I think it's probably a little bit of a fool's errand in the sense that teens are going to move outside and around bans. You can't make a ban for the entire internet. So how do you find a way to really put in place what they're trying to do, which is to basically create friction? And this is where I think if you put parental approval, so anytime you download an app, a teen goes to download an app, a parent has to say yes or no. In other words, you're starting with a restriction around entering, and you're basically saying, okay, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't. That's a better way to do that across the entire internet.
So how come you couldn't argue that successfully to the Australians?
I think Australia moved very quickly. They didn't have a chance to really consult with experts. That came up during the time. I think if we'd had more time, we would have been in a better position to make that case.
Are you hoping, and I don't want to make this overtly political, but are you hoping it doesn't work, and in not working you can then go to the next government off the cab, the cab off the rank to say, there it is?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would never hope for something not to work that's designed to make things better for families. What I'd really hope for is that we can develop a solution that does work for families.
Do you have a solution in the dark corners of Meta that could technically achieve what they want to do, but you just don't want to do it because this is all about you losing customer base?
Yeah, no, I think it's actually really, really hard to do what they are asking us to do. There's no simple way without asking everybody to provide some kind of an ID to verify age. That means that every app, when teens use about 40 apps, are then taking that information. This is, again, why we're going to this OS App Store approach.
So the other thing is, in Australia this last week, there was a story floating around. So the daughter, it was for Insta or Whats, I can't remember, puts the phone to the dad's face. And the company that you guys employ don't do age, they do face, or they just do face, not age, whatever. Anyway, the point is she got back on her account.
Right. I don't know of that particular
but in general as a thing.
Yeah. In general, I mean, one of the challenges with all of these different technologies is that they work well, but there are ways to get around them. And a lot of people spend time trying to get around them. We've done sort of a multi-layered approach to try to address that. But there is this moment in time where teens and parents basically purchase the phone, and parents have an opportunity to set the age. And if we use that moment in time well, we'd be in a much better process to create the right sort of multi-layered approach.
Was this always coming for your sort of companies, this as you put it, this moment in time? 10 years ago when this was all like new and fantastic, did somebody in the dark corners of Meta go, tell you what, someone at some point is going to push back big time and we need to prepare for this?
Well, I've been at Meta for about 11 years, so I do think over the course of the entire time that I've been there, we have been thinking about how do we make our apps safe for young people. So we have teen accounts that put kids into built-in restrictions, and they can only change them if they're under 16 if their parents give them permission. That's all a long journey over 10 years of putting in place over 50 different tools. And throughout this process, we've been thinking about how to make it simple. When I came in 11 years ago, my daughter, who's now 27, was right in the thick of it. And I had this urgency myself of how do we make something simpler for parents.
Right. How much of your thinking at Meta is about the idea that really you got to have the parents on board or the kids on board, and the alternative to that is let's all blame big tech because they're rich and successful and they don't care? So that interface between those two conversations.
Yeah, look, we all have a role to play. If you think about anything with young people, we basically say, okay, what are the rules that we want to have in place as a society or on a platform for ours? What are the obligations that we have as a company or a government? What are the obligations that we have to create certain safety mechanisms? And then we always see it as a partnership with parents, because parents know a specific thing about their child that you or I might not know. Yeah. And I say parents, but I really should say caregivers, because not every...
Of course. Well, you didn't happen to be... You remember when Zuckerberg fronted up at the congressional hearing? It was on the Hill. Do you remember that? When was that? Was that
times.
Yeah. But the last one where he had to turn around to the families who were standing... Right,
yes.
Okay. Were you there? You didn't happen to be there?
I wasn't in the room.
Okay, but you will have seen that, obviously.
Of course.
How do you handle that? What do you say to those families who look at you and go, it's on you?
Yeah, here's the thing. It's a terrible tragedy, and you can't dismiss those tragedies. It's for those parents, they're dealing with something that's extraordinarily horrible, and that they should never have had to deal with. And we want to make sure that parents feel like they have a sense that they can have peace of mind with our apps and services. One of the things with teen accounts was really to put in place safeguards that match up to parents' top concerns. We want them to know that these safeguards are in place. We're not moving these safeguards. The only person, if your teen's under 16, who can move those safeguards is you. And then we've also built in additional controls so that if a parent knows of a specific issue that their teen may be dealing with, they have the ability to see who their teen is messaging with. They can see who's following them, who's following their teen. They can set time parameters. So if their teen really struggles with sort of self-regulation around time, they can actually put in place a 15-minute limit for our service.
Okay, sure.
So,
will you be able to, do you think, tech your way out of all of this to a point where this is no longer a conversation, and if there is a problem or an issue or fury and anger, the tech will solve it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say the tech can solve a lot of pieces, but I don't think it can solve everything, which is one of the reasons that we're pushing for this legislation, because we think it's the combination of legislation that immediately gives parents the right to say yes or no, with obligations, which can be legislation or not, doesn't matter, but obligations that apps put in place the right safeguards, which is why we've built teen accounts, with the ability for parents to see and have controls. It's that combination that I think will provide us with a path out.
Broad-based AI question, bad actors generally. How big a problem are bad actors using things like AI looking to cause trouble on your platforms?
Bad actors are adversarial, so they're always trying to find ways around the safeguards that we've put in place.
Are you winning?
I actually think AI provides a really great opportunity for us more than for the bad actors, in the sense that we are able to train the AI to sort of identify their behaviors in much more sophisticated ways that are much less predictable for them to sort through and get
Because
past.
here's my personal question to you. I've got a profile in this country, and I've been on the end of any number of scams. And I look at those and I think, if you can't see that, you're an idiot, because they're not that good. And yet people fall for them all the time. I'm assuming that's only going to get worse.
they will get, the bad actors, because they're adversarial, will always try to get better and get around our systems. But the technology gets much more sophisticated. So, for example, in sort of that clickbait of popular public figures, we're now using these facial recognition tools and testing them to stop that type of scam.
Do you find your job enriching or problematic in this day and age?
I think there are very few places where I would have the kind of opportunity that I have at Meta to put in place tools and safeguards that are helpful to parents. Before joining Meta, I actually was a middle school teacher. I have a law degree. I was working for a regulator, thinking about these things. Most of my career has been spent a lot of time on thinking about parents and families and how do we support them. And you can do that at great scale at Meta. And so I feel, and they're very supportive of Meta, of that work.
Fantastic. Nice to meet you, and you must come in again.